All right, what's going on, you beautiful, beautiful people? Welcome to the experience, baby. Welcome to the journey. It is always an honor, always a pleasure to be called your teacher, especially on a day like this, especially on a valuable day like this. Because not only is today a day for literature, because again, Monday is our usual fast track class day, right? So there might be a lot of pupils here who join my usual fast track class on Monday. However, there might be other pupils here. And thanks a lot. What's going on, Mahadi? What's going on, Fatima? What's going on? Another Fatima. What's going on, Shahil? Glad you're here, man. Ifat Mariam. Where's Yushra? And what's going on, everyone else, right? Glad to see all of you guys, all energetic, pumped up. I'm so proud right now to be called your teacher. And thanks again for reminding me of the math seminar. Aman, we work insanely hard in Isaac.com. And today also, we are going to work insanely hard. All right. And what's going on, Hamdan? What's going on, Yushra? And what's going on, Zuleik? Glad all of you guys are here. Okay. So let me talk about the reason behind this webinar. So not only are we hoping to cater to the 2024 batch pupils, and the 2025 batch pupils, we also hope to help a few of our other pupils who are from a different batch, all right? There might be pupils here from a different batch, pupils who don't fall under the 2024 and 2025 badges, right? So maybe you guys will also find this session to be ultra important. Let me start recording right now. Unable to start recording. Give me a second, okay? I believe I have to clear my recordings. Give me a few seconds. So let me very quickly talk about what today's webinar is going to be about. I've got a gut feeling that Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson will help you in the exam. All right? I've got a gut feeling that Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson will help you immensely. All right. And that's the reason we are having this seminar right now. This is going to be a seminar for Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Insanely simple poem that is. So you know, in your syllabus, we've got how many poems? In your O-level syllabus, now remember, you get two kinds of questions under poetry. One, you get context questions, right? You actually get two context questions under poetry. And then you get four analyses, apologies, 5 analyses questions. Out of those 5, you've got to select one. All right. I'll remind you guys again. In your paper, you have a poetry section, and the poetry section has two kinds of questions that you guys might get. I'm talking to our new grade 10 Babala, okay? This is a grade 10 seminar, not for the 2023 batch, okay? The seminar is not for the 2023 batch pupils, I promise. All right. Regardless, there are 20 poems in your syllabus. And out of those 20 poems, you have to know a bunch of poems if you want to go to the exam. Now, for example, you have to be comfortable with 1 or 2 themes. Remember how many themes? 1 or 2 themes. If you guys don't know what themes are the 5 categories that the poems are broken under. In your syllabus, there are 20 poems. What does that mean? If you learn all 20 poems, that means your syllabus becomes a lot more easier. However, if this is the last minute, what's going on, Simra? Glad you joined. What's going on, Amina? And yes, thanks again for dropping by, Yushra. Again, as I was saying, if you cover the 20 poems, it will be a lot more easier for you to face the exam. However, now, there might be some pupils who might not have time to cover all 20 poems, right? There might be pupils here who might not have time to cover every single poem in your syllabus. Now, this is when you go with a strategical approach. This is when you try to save your energy, reserve your time, and focus on the ultra important lessons. What are you hoping to do now, Nangis and Mallis? Right now, you are going to focus on the ultra important sessions. If I were you, I will prioritize learning the poems under nature, or I will prioritize learning the poems under the theme of life. What was that again, Nangis and Mallis? If I didn't really have that much time for the exam, now imagine if I'm a student and if I have my exam tomorrow, all right, I'm giving you a hypothetical example, okay, not a real example. Hypothetically, if I were a student and I had my literature exam tomorrow, I will most probably be focusing on the poems under the theme of life or the poems under the theme of nature, because you can write ultra valuable analyses for the poems under the theme of life and the poems under the theme of nature. And what's going on, Sayyida? Glad you're here also. Hafsa Haris, we shall make you Fulsa today. Like my school teacher who skips lessons purposely because she doesn't know. I can understand your situation, Abdul. Aman. But at least right now you've got Javed sir on your side, okay? At least now you've got Javed sir on your side. How do you cover the novels, Aisha? In the last minute, you can't cover novels, Baba. In the last minute, it's smart if you can focus on the prose, the drama, one of the dramas, right? Focus on the bear if you can. If this is the last minute, you can't learn the novel in the last minute. But don't worry, you can still focus on the bear, right? The dramas. You can learn the drama in an hour, 1.5 hours, you can learn the bear. And then you could learn one of the 4 prose. I like learning the nightingale and the rose, but you guys can choose any prose that you want. According to my idea, the Lahore attack, an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture hyphen the Lahore attack, is ultra easy to learn in the last minute. Because now we're talking about the last minute people, right? The people who want to learn in the last minute. So focus on the prose, one of the prose. Focus on the drama, the bear, one of the 2 dramas. The bear is the best drama in your syllabus. You can write valuable analyses for the bear. Focus on one of the 5 themes. Focus on the theme of nature or focus on the theme of life. If this is the last minute, you can't learn the entire novel. Impossible. However, if you have chosen Bringing Tony Home, you could do something in the last minute. You can learn Bringing Tony Home in the last minute. Regardless, right now, we are going to learn about Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. And I'll tell you why I chose Richard Cory, all right? I'll tell you guys why I chose Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Because it will help all of you guys, not just the grade 11 pupils, even though Richard Cory is a grade 11 poem, all right? Out of the 20 poems, 11 poems are taught for grade 10 and 9 poems are taught for grade 11. Richard Cory is a grade 11 poem. But if you are a new pupil who has started learning literature recently, Richard Cory will give you a very good understanding about the syllabus. It's like a gateway poem, if you ask me. It is an ultra easy poem that you can learn a lot of techniques out of. There's a myriad. There is a lot of techniques that you can master, you can learn out of Richard Cory. If you memorize Richard Cory, you can even write a valuable analysis for it. And that is where my gut feeling kicks in. So as a teacher, last year, I predicted that Farewell to Barn and Stack Country will be one of the poems in the paper. I predicted, okay? It's a prediction. Like the coconut seller lady in the vendor of sweets who predicted that Jagan and Ambika will be blessed with a son called Mali, right? Like the coconut seller lady in the vendor of sweets, I predicted that you guys might get a question from Farewell to Barn and Stack Country. Lo and behold, last year, you guys got a question from Farewell to Barn and Stack Country. This year, my gut feeling, okay? This year, my gut feeling is focused on Richard Cory. This year, I prioritize Richard Cory, all right? The reason is because I believe that it might be a poem that is given in your paper. It's a prediction, but it's a really strong prediction. Without taking any more time, let's Satapatagala start by sharing our screen and let me pull out the presentation for Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Yes, in chapter 12, the girl predicts surely. Sandana Krishna, not a girl, a coconut seller lady, right? In chapter 12, you're right. Hajan, genius you are. Gonna move forward. So right now, the first thing that I am going to do is I am going to pull out a valuable presentation for you guys that your Javitsa has made for you to teach you Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. It is a ultra simple poem you guys should know, right? It is an ultra simple poem that you guys can learn. However, remember, even though the poem is simple, even though the poem only has how many quatrains, how many stanzas does the poem have, Nangis and Mallis? The poem only has 4 stanzas. That means you can learn the poem ridiculously quickly. All right. Richard Cory is one of the easier poems in your syllabus, but you can extract a lot of marks out of it if it were given in the exam as an analysis, because there is a good chance that you might get Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson as an analysis question. And there is a very small chance that you might get Richard Cory in the first paper. Regardless, if you are a new grade pupil, a new grade 10 pupil, I want you guys to pay attention, because learning this poem properly will make you nearly a master of literature. I promise. Learning this poem properly will make you a master of literature. But the first thing that you have to do is get a practical understanding of the techniques. Because if you think about your analyses, if you think about the first paper, right? If you think about the context questions that you get in the first paper, you must definitely talk about techniques. You should know how lit techniques work. And during this period, during these 2 hours, I will teach you as much as techniques as I can, because Richard Cory is full of literary devices that even grade 10 pupils can learn. So this is not a targeted seminar for the grade 11 pupils. Even if you are a new grade 10 Chuti Baba, you can still join this session and be a part of this glorious experience, baby. Let's Satapatagala talk about the theme that Richard Cory falls under. What is the theme that Richard Cory falls under? It is a poem under the theme of society. Out of the 20 poems, right? 4 poems fall under the theme of society. What is that poem, Baba? It is obviously. What are the 4 poems, Baba? We have Richard Cory. We've got Big Match 1983. My God, that is such a complicated poem. Big Match is the longest poem in your syllabus, so don't spend time learning Big Match, because it is going to take a lot of your energy. Focus on learning the easier poems like Richard Cory, The Eagle, especially if you are learning in the last minute. Especially if you are learning for tomorrow's exam, focus on the easier poems, because there is a good chance that you could get a lot of marks out of these poems that I am talking about now. So drop Big Match 1983. That is overcomplicated, Nangis. Big Match 1983 is such a gigantic poem. So drop that. But the other poems you guys can kind of learn before the exam. But right now we are going to prioritize Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Before we talk about the poem, I want to give you guys an idea about the organization of the poem. Now, when pupils start learning lit, the first thing that they do is they start reading, right? The first thing that pupils, they start doing is that they start reading, and reading is not exactly what you should do to learn literature. Now, remember, when you get into this subject, you are like a lawyer. You have to always look at the evidence. It's not an artistic subject. You are not being creative. It is impossible to be creative in literature, right? Being creative means you write your own stories, you write your own poems. No, we cannot be creative. We must be analytical while learning literature. You have to focus on the evidence, like a lawyer would focus on evidence before presenting his case. Like that, you have to focus on the evidence of what you are going to talk about in the analysis. So before we actually start reading Richard Cory, let's talk about the organization of the poem, right? Let's talk about the organization of Richard Cory. If you guys have read Richard Cory, you know that there are 4 uniform stanzas. If you guys have read Richard Cory before this, you should know that there are 4 uniform stanzas. What does uniform mean? All of the stanzas look the same. If you look at the structure of the stanzas, Nangis and Mallis, Habibis, Baba, Puta, all of the stanzas have to look the same. The uniform stanza option we can find in The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson, right? The Eagle has 2 uniform stanzas, 3 lines per stanza. Richard Cory also has 4 uniform stanzas, 4 lines per stanza. Farewell to Barn and Stack and Tree also has what stanzas? It has uniform stanzas. And remember, how many cotes does Richard Cory have? Richard Cory has 4 quatrains, right? I'll give you one. Richard Cory has 4 cotes, 4 quatrains. What do you mean by a quatrain? A quatrain is a 4-line stanza. If a stanza has 4 lines, all right? If a stanza has 4 lines, it's called a quatrain. Some teachers do say that reading is very important on writing analyses. Is that true? No, Hamdan, it's smart if you can memorize the extracts, right? I mean, for example, Hamdan, let's say that you are trying to write an analysis for Richard Cory. You've got to memorize Richard Cory. You have to know the organization of Richard Cory. Just by reading Richard Cory, you're not going to learn about it, right? You've got to approach Richard Cory like you are approaching evidence. Just by reading whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him, that will not exactly help you out. I hope you understand, Hamdan. So really quickly, let's move forward. Let's talk about the organization of Richard Cory. How many cotes do you have in Richard Cory? 4 cotes, right? What do you mean by a cote? A quatrain. A quatrain is a 4-line stanza. So altogether, how many lines do we have in Richard Cory? We have 16 lines, right? The entire poem has 16 lines. These 16 lines are divided between 4 stanzas. And these are waterform stanzas, Baba. These are uniform stanzas. And yes, Thabit, pun is a technique in our syllabus because Big Match 1983 has a pun in its title. Pun is an in-syllabus technique. We even have puns in Richard Cory. I'll explain all of those techniques, okay? The reason that your Javed sir chose to talk about Richard Cory is because you can learn all of the techniques, almost all of the techniques in your syllabus. You can learn through this single poem. And if you understand how to identify these techniques, you can learn other poems also. Now, for example, let's say we learn about a metaphor in Richard Cory, right? You can identify the metaphors in other poems also, right? Let's say that we learn about what a pun is, right? Panne, the pun. Let's talk about a pun in Richard Cory. If you learn it, you can also identify the puns in the other poems in your syllabus, right? So excited to write my O-level English lit paper. Of course, I'm sure you're going to get an A, Nangi. Regardless, very quickly, let's talk about the organization of Richard Cory. There are rhyming stanzas, right? The four stanzas in Richard Cory have an end rhyme, and that is basically all you need to worry about regarding the organization. How many stanzas do we have in Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson Baba? We have four stanzas, 4 lines per stanza. AKN, how many quotes does Richard Cory have? Richard Cory's got 4 quotes, 4 quatrains, and these are rhyming stanzas, right? These stanzas have rhyme. There is something called an alternating rhyme that we can find throughout the stanzas. But let's talk about that later. Once we start focusing on the first stanza, you guys will get a better understanding about what Richard Cory stands for. But right now, looking at the first stanza, how many lines does it have? It has 4 lines. A stanza with 4 lines is called a quatrain, a quote, right? A stanza with 4 lines is called a quatrain. And look at the kone kal of every line, Nangis. You guys like looking at the konekal of the stanzas, right? The lines. Look at the last word of every line, Nangis and Mallis. What can you tell me about them? What can you tell me about the last word of every line? Town rhymes with crown, right? Town rhymes with crown. Him rhymes with slim. So don't you see a rhyming effect in the last word of every line, right? There is a kind of a rhyme that you can find here. So we call this alternating rhyme. We call this rhyme alternating rhyme. That means one word rhymes with a word after the next word. And it keeps on continuing. So by looking at the stanza itself, you guys can learn a lot about Richard Cory. But before we actually start going through the first stanza, let's talk a bit about the intro section for Richard Cory. All right. Let's talk a bit about the intro section for Richard Cory. You guys have to remember that whatever poem you choose for the exam, you must write a very strong intro paragraph. Let's say that you choose the poem The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson in the exam. Thus far, a single analysis has not been given for that poem. Let's say that you have chosen a poem from the theme of a conflict, Farewell to Barn and Stack and Tree. To write an analysis for, you must definitely write a valuable intro section, okay? Do you understand that? If you want to write an analysis for a poem in the exam, you have to write a compelling intro section. And remember, you can't write the intro section from scratch in the exam. You have to prepare yourself with the intro section before the exam. I hope you guys can understand that. You don't start practicing for a race during the race, right? While you are running the race, right? You don't start practicing for it. You practice for the race prior to the date of the race. Do you understand that? A big mistake that a lot of pupils make is that they start to experiment in the exam itself. They change their writing style. They add more ideas in the exam itself. That is a recipe for failure. You've got to get ready for the exam before the exam. And even a day before the exam, you can still get ready for it. Now, for example, let's say that you have chosen to write an analysis for Richard Cory. You can basically follow this recipe and write the exact intro section. I hope you guys can understand that, okay? Now, let's say one more time. If you have chosen to write an analysis for Richard Cory, let's say you have chosen the theme of society. That means you have to get ready with the 4 poems under the theme of society, right? You've got to get ready with Richard Cory, Big Match 1983, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. You've got to get ready with Once Upon a Time by Gabriel O'Cara. So if you have chosen the theme of society, you have to be able to write an intro section for all 4 of those poems. Do you understand? in the exam. Now we've got 5 themes, okay? I hope that the new pupils here will also pay attention. We have, I don't think that the eagle will be given in the exam, Thabit, because the eagle is such a simple poem that thus far it has never been given in the exam. Is it possible? If possible, do you mind sharing a few analyses that we can read? Absolutely, Shasana. Absolutely. I'll give you my contact and you guys can reach out through WhatsApp. But right now, remember, we have 5 themes, okay? 5 themes under the genre of poetry. All right. Under poetry, we've got 5 themes. The 5 themes fall under the acronym SCHLN. All right. What do SCHLN stand for? Society, conflict, humor, life, and nature. So under the poetry section, we've got 5 themes. And in the exam, you will definitely be given one poem, right? One poem. You will definitely be given one poem out of these 5 themes. Do you understand that? That means you don't really need to learn all 20 poems. Does that make sense? Now, remember, in the exam, there will definitely be a poem from the theme of society. That means if you learn all the 4 poems under the theme of society, you can definitely write an analysis for the poetry section, right? Now, let's say that for the theme of nature, you would get to the Nile, okay? For example, let's say for the theme of nature that you would be given the poem To the Nile by John Keats. So what are the 4 poems under the theme of nature? We have The Eagle, we have To the Evening Star by William Blake, we have A Bird Came Down the Walk, and then we have To the Nile by John Keats. So if you were to learn To the Nile, right, with the other 3 poems, you can definitely answer this analysis that you would get in the exam, right? One more time, if you were to learn all 4 poems under the theme of nature, you will definitely be able to answer To the Nile, right? So that is the dimension that you guys should be thinking through. Right? It's not about learning all 20 poems. It's about choosing a theme and learning the 4 poems under that theme thoroughly. Still, I have a gut feeling that Richard Cory might be a poem that you get under the analysis section, or you might get it under the first paper. So I told you guys, the first thing that you are going to do is learn how to write an intro section for Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. The first thing that you have to remember is to explain what the poem is. Now, if you're writing an intro section for a poem, for a prose, for a short story, a prose is a short story, for a drama, you have to briefly explain what the lesson is. And that is exactly what I have done here. Now, this is a very rich intro section. And in the exam, if your intro section is really strong, you can write a game-changing analysis. If your intro section in the exam is very strong, you can write a game-changing analysis. Follow this intro section with your Javed Daya. Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson is a thought-provoking poetical panorama. My God, panorama. I would remove the word panorama, and I would say anomaly. Now, I hope that you guys can understand that these words are kind of sophisticated, right? These words are professional, and it's not too late to learn words like this because these will definitely help you in the exam. Imagine in the exam, if you were to write like a grade 6 child, Richard Cory is a very beautiful poem. It has 4 stanzas. I like reading Richard Cory. You're not going to get marks, right? You've got to write professionally in the exam, and literally you guys can memorize this line from word to word, and you can use it in the exam. One more time, Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson is a thought-provoking. What do you mean by thought-provoking? Yeah, exactly. You can't write that Richard Cory is a man, right? In the exam, you cannot write like a grade 6 pupil. You've got to be able to represent this as your first language. That's the idea of literature, right? Now, when you learn Tamil lit, when you learn Sinhala lit or Tamil as a first language or Sinhala as a first language, you write professionally, right? Now, you guys who do Sinhala as a first language, you guys learn about a lesson called Satarakhan Mantraya, right? So you don't write like Satarakhan Mantraya කියන්නේ හරිම ලස්සන කතාවක්. මං ඒ කතාවට හරිම ආසයි, right? You don't write like that. When you learn Tamil as a first language, exactly Sayeda, you might have learnt about the short story Mutamma, the poem Suyasaride, right? You don't write Suyasaride, Saryana Pasindana Kavideonde, right? Saryana Asa. You don't write like that, right? You write professionally, don't you? When you write an analysis in Tamil or Sinhalese, when you write a Vicharayak in Sinhalese, you write professionally. So that is the exact same professionalism that you have to take with you to the exam. Thought-provoking is a brilliant word that you can use with any analysis. Now, for example, can I say that The Bear is a thought-provoking drama? Absolutely. Hell yes. Can I say that To the Nile is a thought-provoking piece of poetry? Absolutely, I can. Can I say that The Eagle is a thought-provoking poetical anomaly? Hell yes, I can. So do you understand? Just by memorizing these words now, because these are words that I have grasped after many years of experience. After 4 years of writing analyses every single week, these are the words that I have found to be ultra valuable. One more time, what do you mean by anomaly? Anomaly means something that is special, something odd, something special, something odd. That is what you call an anomaly. So one more time, Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson is a thought-provoking poetical anomaly. One more time, can you say that The Eagle is a thought-provoking poetical anomaly? Absolutely. Can you say that Farewell to Barn and Stack and Tree is a thought-provoking poetical anomaly? Absolutely. Can you say that The Clown's Wife by Johnson Agard is a thought-provoking poetical anomaly? Hell yes, you can. And this is exactly how the A-level pupils write. So your Javed sir teaches A-level lit also. So that this writing attitude I got after I started teaching A-level lit. And writing like this is ultra valuable, okay? Which materializes. Materializes means shows. So without using the word show, you guys can use the word materialize. And these are not unfamiliar words, right? You guys have used these words before. Now, for example, in science, you guys use the word material, materialize, right? You use these words already, but sometimes you guys might not be comfortable using these with literature, right, Tabit? So it's a lot more easier if you guys can focus on writing professionally. You can literally learn this in one day. You can learn to write professionally in one day. You guys are Tamil medium pupils, right? Sinhala medium pupils. You are English medium pupils, or you have learned literature for many years that now English is nearly your native language. All right. So one more time, Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson is a thought-provoking poetical anomaly which materializes the dichotomy between the upper class and the lower sect. The upper and lower sects. What does upper and lower sex means? Sex here means classes, right? And can I use the word society? What do you guys think? Let your gut feeling talk to me. Is it good to use the word society, or is it not good to use the word society when I am writing an analysis about Richard Cory? What do you guys think? It's absolutely good, right? Because absolutely, you guys are right. You're right, Sugendran. You are right, Madhumita. You are right, Simra. Because society is the theme, right? Is the theme of the poem. So now I hope that you guys can realize what we are supposed to write during an analysis. This is the intro section that your Javedaya would write for Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson in an analysis. And in the analysis, I have talked about what Richard Cory is. It is a poetical anomaly which materializes the dichotomy between the upper and lower sex of society. What is dichotomy? Dichotomy means contrast. There is a technique, Baba, that is very similar to contrast. Do you guys know the technique? Now, there is a technique that is very similar to the word contrast. Absolutely, Hajan, you're right, Ifat Mariam. And absolutely, Sayyada, geniuses you guys are, absolutely, you are right, Amina. One girl army you are. Not this Amina. One Amina is correct, the other Amina is wrong. It is juxtaposition, Nangi. Juxtaposition, very simple. What do you mean by juxtaposition? You take two opposite things and you show how different they are. You take a really dark man and you take a really fair girl, and if you put them together, there is juxtaposition. You take a really tall man. Oh, no, it's not a paradox, Hanisha. This is not a paradox. This is juxtaposition. Absolutely, Farhan, you're right. You take two opposite things and you talk about their differences. Another example, take a really rich man and put him next to a poor man, right? That is also an example for juxtaposition. Take a really old lady and put her next to a baby. Is that juxtaposition? What do you guys think? Absolutely. Absolutely right. If you take an old lady and put her next to a baby, there is a contrast. They are two opposite entities. Definitely, that is an example for juxtaposition. So, one more time, the word contrast resonates with the technique juxtaposition. I'll give you guys a valuable note about this. But now we are talking about the intro section for Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. One more time, Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. And did you guys notice that Richard Cory is capitalized and it is in inverted commas? I have capitalized Richard Cory because it is a title, right? All titles of poetry should be capitalized and they have to be put inside inverted commas because it is a title, obviously. That's why it is put inside inverted commas. Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson is a thought-provoking poetical anomaly which materializes the dichotomy between the upper and lower sex of society. The poem is narrated in the first-person corner. What does first-person corner mean, Baba? What do you mean by first-person corner? I'll give you guys some extra notes in the bottom. You guys can write this down. I promise it'll be ultra valuable, okay? Now, for example, words like poetical anomaly, words like thought-provoking, they will help you immensely in the exam. But now, I'll give you guys some extra notes also because I believe that they will help you immensely. Very quickly, let me pull out a table here, all right? And the first thing is, I can tell you that contrast is equal to another technique called juxtaposition. Contrast is similar to another technique called juxtaposition, ultra valuable technique in your syllabus. All right. And what do you mean by first person narration? What do you mean by first person narration? For example, you guys might have read an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture hyphen the Lahore attack, right? You might have read the prose an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture hyphen the Lahore attack. What kind of a narration was it? In that narrative, Sangakkara was talking about someone else, or was Sangakkara talking about himself? What do you think, Simra? In that prose, Sangakkara was talking about himself, right? So while talking about Richard Cory, let's talk a bit about the other lessons in your syllabus also. You guys might remember an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture, right? An extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture hyphen the Lahore attack, right? An extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture hyphen the Lahore attack. Give me a moment. Quickly make some space for myself here on the table. Is a first-person narration. Do you guys remember any other first-person narrations in our syllabus? Hyphen the Lahore attack, lecture, right? Hyphen the Lahore attack is a example for a first-person narration. How about, absolutely, you're right, Afzal, but it's called, exactly Sayyida, it's called an extract from wave, right? An extract from wave, hyphen, a memoir, again, capital, right? A memoir of life, a memoir of life after the tsunami. Now, in the exam, if you were to write wave, now let's say that you get a question regarding an extract from wave, an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture. Thanks a lot, life. If you were to get a question regarding these lessons and you just wrote wave, you've written the Lahore attack, will you get marks? Most probably not, because they are not the real analyses, right? I mean, they are not the real titles. The real titles of the prose are an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture and an extract from wave. So make sure you guys write the titles properly. If you were to make a spelling mistake while writing the titles, or if you guys were to, let's say, mess up the titles without saying an extract from wave, you just write wave. You are not going to get marks. Hope you understand that. I see a lot of pupils make this mistake when they talk about an extract from wave and an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture hyphen the Lahore attack. They only write half of the title. You won't be given marks if you write half of the title. I'll tell you another example. Now, you know that there is a poem called Farewell to Barn and Stack and Tree, right? You guys know that in your syllabus, there is a poem under the theme of conflict called Farewell to Barn and Stack and Tree. Now, let's say that you guys wrote it as farewell, all right, farewell to barn, comma, stack, and tree. What do you guys think? Would you get marks? What do you think, Nangis and Mallis? If you guys were to write farewell to barn, comma, stack, and tree, you are not going to get marks. Surprisingly, there are grade 11 pupils who make this mistake. You could easily get a mark for free if you write the title properly, because you have heard these titles thousands of times, right? But in the exam, I see pupils make these silly mistakes and they lose a valuable mark or two. So if you write the title incorrectly, now let's say you don't misspell the title, but you write the title in simple letters. You write the title using simple letters, Nangis and Mallis. You write the title using simple letters. Even then, you will not get marks. You have to capitalize the title properly. Another example, you capitalize all of the words. Can you capitalize all of the words while writing the title? No, you can't. No, you can't, because there are some words that must be in simple. For example, you can't capitalize and. You should not capitalize and. You can't capitalize prepositions like to, after, right? You can't capitalize prepositions. So make sure you write the title properly. For some reason, if you don't remember how the title is capitalized, go to the content page of your appreciation book. Go to the content page of your appreciation book and memorize all of the titles and their capitalizations and their spellings, okay? But now we are not talking about Farewell to Barn and Stack Country. We are not talking about an extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture. We are talking about Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. What kind of a narration is it? It's a first-person narration, right? It is a first-person narration. Exactly, Hajan. Articles should be in simple. Also, prepositions, right? Prepositions, for example, this, for example, to, above, under, right? Prepositions should also be in simple. Regardless, the narrator in Richard Cory talks about himself. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. We people on the pavement looked at him. That confirms that the poem is a first-person narration. Why is it a first-person narration? Because the narrator talks about his experiences. Out of the 4 prose in your syllabus, what are the 2 prose that are first-person narrations? An extract from Colin Cowdrey lecture hyphen the Lahore attack, and then an extract from Wave. Hopefully you guys can understand, okay? Hopefully you guys can understand. Isn't Farewell to BST also a first-person narration? Absolutely, with Mariam, it is. Farewell to Barn and Stack Country is a first-person narration. Regardless, we are now going to talk about the intro section further, right? For Richard Cory, the poem is narrated in the first-person corner, and as the title suggests, my God, that is a 200 level IQ move. Write this down. Use a gold color ink pen and write this down, Baba. As the title suggests, 3 words that you can write in your analysis that will make it so important. It will make your analysis a lot more valuable. Now, I told you, when you are a literature student, should you behave like an artist, or do you think like a lawyer? You think like a lawyer, right? When you are a literature student, you look at the evidence. You're not trying to be creative, you're trying to be professional. You don't think like an artist, you think like a lawyer, right? So in that case, you can even use the title of the poem as proof. Right now, what I've done here is I have used the title of the poem as proof. As the title suggests, the narrative is guised as an account which closely follows the persona and quirks of a celebrity named Richard Cory. As the title suggests, like it has been mentioned in the title, as the title suggests, the narrative revolves around, the narrative is guised as an account. That means the narrative looks like an account. An account means note. A collection of information is called an account. The title, as the title suggests, the narrative is guised as an account which closely follows the persona and quirks. What do you mean by quirks? Quirks means oddities, like special, odd qualities, oddities, odd qualities, quirks, odd qualities. There's another poem in your syllabus that talks about a character with oddities. Who was that? What was that character? What was that poem? There is another poem in your syllabus that talks about the oddities of a character. To be honest, there are many. There are many. For example, I think you guys have given me the answer. A doubt. The earthen goblet. To be honest, it's earthen. It's pronounced earthen without the R, right? It's spelled without the R. There are, and remember, there are printing mistakes in your content. Good that you reminded me, Hajan. Remember, the earthen goblet, right? It is spelled the earthen, Then. In your appreciation book, it will be spelled as Earthern. That's wrong, okay? And also, you guys know A.E. Husman. What did A.E. Husman write? What did A.E. Husman write? He wrote, "Farewell to barn and stack and tree." His name is also spelled wrong. These are spelling mistakes in the content. In the content page, there are only 2 spelling mistakes. Please correct them. A.E. Houseman is spelled A.E. Husman, okay? Husman. So what I did was, when I met A.E. Houseman, I made him a Muslim. I took a blade and I cut the E of his name. I cut his name's E. I'm not kidding. His name is really Husman, okay? Please spell his name properly. In the content page, there are 2 spelling mistakes. The first one is earthen, right? Earthen is spelled earthen. That's the correct spelling. Earthern is the wrong spelling. And Houseman is spelled like Husman, okay? Please make those changes. Everyone can understand, right? Also, no abbreviations allowed. True, Sayeda. No abbreviations allowed. For example, you can't write farewell to BST. You should write it as farewell to barn and stack and tree. Absolutely, Simra. You can start writing the intro paragraph with your Javed, sir. And absolutely, Sayeda, upside down was a character with oddities, right? Even the clown, absolutely, Shazna. Well done, Amina. Viren, I love your name, Viren. Zainab, true. Hajan, you're right. Ashfaq, love your name also, Ashfaq. Ronaldo, thanks for joining, Ronaldo. Absolutely. You might know that the clown, right? The clown in The Clown's Wife had oddities, right? He had odd qualities. And even upside down had oddities, odd qualities. So the narrative is guised as an account which closely follows the persona and quirks of a celebrity named Richard Cory. A stereotypical socialite. What do you mean by stereotypical? Now, that's a word we can use a lot with the poems under the theme of society. It means you are judging a social group. You have a preconceived notion about a social group, a stereotype. Now, for example, in America, they think that all Muslims are terrorists, right? It's a stereotype. All Muslims aren't really terrorists, right? And we don't have AK-47s at home. We don't have pictures of Osama bin Laden hanging on the wall. What is his name again? Like Jagan's father's collector acquaintance, Mr. Noble, right? Mr. Noble. We don't have pictures of Osama bin Laden hanging on our walls. So Muslims are not terrorists. But in the West, there is a stereotype that looks at Muslims like we are terrorists. Another example, there is a stereotype that judges girls to be weaker than men, right? That girls are too sensitive. They love the color pink. They cry easily. They cannot tolerate, they can't tolerate stress. That's a stereotype, right? A stereotype, a preconceived social notion, a preconceived. That means, now, for example, how about this? Let's say I tell you about my friend Abdullah, right? I tell you about my friend Abdullah, and you start imagining everything about Abdullah. You imagine that he has a big beard. You imagine that he wears a jubba all the time, right? Because his name is Abdullah. That's a stereotype, isn't it? Before you meet the person, you measure him. That's a very easy way to remember the word stereotype. You can use the word stereotype with all of the humor poems. Listen very carefully. You can use the word stereotype, stereotypical. For example, in the camel's hump, you can talk about stereotypical laziness, stereotype. In Upside Down, you can talk about a stereotypical ignoramus, an idiot, a stereotypical idiot, ignoramus. The word stereotypical, listen very carefully, you can use with poems under the theme of society. You can use it with the poems under the theme of humor. Nature, you can't use the word stereotypical, right? It doesn't sound correct. What do you mean by stereotypical? Can you use the word stereotypical with the vendor of sweets? What do you guys think? Guess and tell your Javedaya Baba. Guess and tell your Javedaya Baba. Can you use the word stereotypical with the vendor of sweets? Jagan is a stereotypical Hindu. Absolutely, you can, right? You can use the word stereotypical with poems under the theme of humor. You can use the word stereotypical with poems under the theme of society. You can use the word stereotypical with Richard Cory. You can use the word stereotypical with Jagan. You can use the word stereotypical even in The Prince and the Pauper. Stereotypical aristocracy. If you guys are learning The Prince and the Pauper, and remember, your Javed sir is one of the very few teachers, the only teacher who teaches all three novels properly. On Sundays, I teach all three novels, separate sessions for all three novels. They are taught properly, by the way. One more time. What do you mean by stereotypical? You start judging the person before you meet them, right? You start judging the person before you meet him. That's what you call stereotypical. A preconceived notion about a social group. So the poem revolves around a stereotypical celebrity, right? A stereotypical socialite. A socialite is a celebrity. A stereotypical socialite, idolized by the narrator, who represents the people on the pavement. The narrator represents Kauda Baba. He represents the people on the pavement. So what does the pavement symbolize? The pavement symbolizes poverty, right? It symbolizes the lower social class. Why not Ronaldo? You can say that Grace is a stereotypical Westerner, right? Isn't that correct? She is a stereotypical Westerner. She is oblivious to Indian culture. Grace doesn't know anything about Indian culture. She tries to be an Indian daughter-in-law, but you can say that Grace is a stereotypical Westerner who is oblivious to Indian culture. She fits the mold of a Westerner who has no idea what Indian culture is. True, Hajan, you're right. Hindu traditionalist, follower of Gandhi, minimalist. Are you one of my pupils, Hajan? Because you know the vendor of sweets very well. True story, Sayyeda. Your Javed sir is the only teacher who teaches all three novels in your syllabus properly. Regardless, in Japan, thinking about his, not Japan, is Jagan thinking about his next Janma? Stereotypical. Jagan is a stereotypical, he's a stereotypical Hindu, right? A traditionalist. But yes, right. The reason he thinks of his next Janma, right, Viren, is because he's a stereotypical Orthodox Hindu, right? He thinks of his now a traditional Orthodox Hindus or a stereotypical Hindu will definitely believe in another Janma, right? So absolutely you can use it. Regardless, there is a juxtaposition here, Pulwaneda, juxtaposition of the rich and poor, right? What does Richard Cory represent? What do you think, Tangis and Mallis? What is the class that Richard Cory represents? He represents the rich, while the narrator And the people on the pavement, they represent the lower class. They represent the poor, right? What's the extract? Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement, we people on the pavement. So Richard Cory, he represents the rich, he represents the higher class of society. We people on the pavement represents the lower class of society. One more time, the narrator who represents the people on the pavement. Moreover, Robinson deftly means talentedly tackles the sensitive topic of suicide, right? There is a situation where suicide is talked about in the poem within a concise 4-stanza footprint. So I've even talked about the number of stanzas, but I've called it a 4-stanza footprint. What do you mean by concise? Concise means short but clear. So the poem is concise, right? It is a concise 4-stanza footprint, and accordingly, the poem is narrated in the past tense, which ominously foreshadows Cory's appalling suicide. So again, it's Richard Cory went downtown. We people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman. So doesn't that allude Cory's death? Doesn't that show Cory's death? All right. I want to add one more thing. I'll add it in a bit, okay? And accordingly, the poem is narrated in the past tense, which ominously foreshadows Cory's appalling. What is appalling? Appalling means frightening, appalling suicide. Thus, the moral of the poem is a modern analogy of the age-old adage. What is analogy? Analogy means comparison. A modern analogy of the age-old adage. Age-old means very old. Adage is a proverb vage. Appearances can be deceptive. And the cliche, money does not equal happiness. A cliche is a well-known piece of advice. I want to add one more idea into this, and I'll explain this again, okay? So again, I don't expect you guys to write exactly like this in the exam. Now, for example, if you are learning this today for tomorrow's exam, you can't write exactly like this, but you can come very close, right? You can try to use professional words like this while you write your analysis. True, right? I want to add one more thing. I want to use the word accolade, or another word, eulogy. Thought-provoking poetical anomaly which materializes the dichotomy between the upper and lower sex of society. The poem is narrated in the first-person corner, and as the title suggests, the narrative is guised as an account, which, not account, I'll use the word eulogy. What is eulogy? A very brilliant word that you guys can use. With Richard Cory, you can only use the word eulogy twice in your syllabus. One, you can use it with Richard Cory. It is a work of praising someone dead, or a non-living thing. A non-living thing like love. All right, very important. Here's another idea that you can talk about. Richard Cory is a eulogy. What do you mean by eulogy? If you are praising someone who died, all right, not crying over someone who died. Crying over someone who died is called elegy. A eulogy means you are praising someone who died, okay? You are praising someone who died. You're Baba Hajan, seriously. Oh, Hajan. That's cool, Baba Hajan. Glad that you dropped by, okay? How to join our novel sessions. I'll explain in a bit. So can you guys tell me what was the other eulogy in our syllabus? There was another eulogy in our syllabus. What do you mean by eulogy? You can't use the word stereotypical with Sonali Dharaniyagala because you can't use the word stereotype with tragedies. You can use the word stereotype with the bear. You can use the word stereotype with the bear, but you can't use the word stereotype with real situations, it's smart if you can use the word stereotype with the poems under the theme of society. You can use the word stereotype with humor poems. You can use it with the vendor of sweets, and you can use the word stereotypical with the bear, with the drama The Bear by Anton Chekhov. Conservative and stereotypical. Oh no, they're different, Zainab. Conservative means overly traditional. Stereotypical is like you are measuring the person before you meet him. It's like a person who is easily measurable, Vage. Like stereotypical. Either you are measuring the person before you met him, or he's a very predictable kind of a person, like Jagan, like Smirnov, like Popova. Stereotypical. Can you tell the sentence using the word stereotypical from the poem Richard Cory? Right here, Nedanangi. A stereotypical celebrity. I'll show you, by the way. You can write the entire thing down if you like, or screenshot this. The narrative is guised as a eulogy. We'll talk about the word eulogy in a bit. Eulogy, which closely follows the persona and quirks of a celebrity named Richard Cory, a stereotypical socialite. He's a predictable kind of a socialite, right? You already can predict what kind of a person Richard Cory is. He's a stereotypical socialite. What do you mean by socialite? Socialite is a celebrity. True, Sayeda, a cliche is an overused piece of advice. Richard Cory said, as a man who is feeling bad inside him, no, not professional enough, right? It's not professional enough. I'll help you out, okay? Don't worry. I will give you a good understanding about Richard Cory. Absolutely, Ronaldo. The Bear is a good example for where you can use the word stereotype. And Ashfaq, you are right. Where did we find the eulogy? To be honest, it was in The Nightingale and the Rose. Oh, crap, even the Bear is correct. Was there a eulogy, though? No, not the Bear. Apologies. The Nightingale and the Rose. In The Nightingale and the Rose, there was a eulogy of love. For love is wiser than philosophy, though she is wise, and mightier than power, though she is mighty. Flamed colored are his wings, and colored like flame is his body. His hair is dark as the, oh no. His lips are sweet as honey, and his breath is like frankincense. Do you guys remember? There was a eulogy. What do you mean by eulogy? You are excessively praising someone who is Setapochi, or you are excessively praising something that is not a human, like love. A eulogy of love. In The Nightingale and the Rose, the Nightingale delivers a eulogy of love. I'll show you guys the extract. For love is wiser than philosophy. For love is wiser. For love is wiser than philosophy, though she is wise, and mightier than power, though he is mighty. Flamed colored are his wings, and colored like flame is his body. His lips are sweet as honey, and his breath is like frankincense. Who is the nightingale talking about? Love, love. She is talking about love. Who is his? Who is his lips? The young student's lips? Or personified love's lips? When she says his lips, is she talking about the young student's lips? Or is she talking about personified love's lips? This is a eulogy of love. Screenshot this if you guys can. This is the Nightingale's eulogy of love. For love is wiser than philosophy. Love is more wiser than philosophy. For love, because love, for means because here. For means because. For love is wiser than philosophy, though she is wise, and mightier than power, though she is mighty. Flamed colored are his wings, and colored like flame is his body. His lips are sweet as honey, and his breath is like frankincense. Baba, this is a eulogy of love. Eulogy of love. Now tell me, is Richard Cory a eulogy? A screenshot this Satapatagala real quickly. Isn't a stereotype a prejudice? True. You're right, Zia. No, it is a prejudice. You're right. True, true. The prejudice means you are being biased towards a social group, right? Prejudice means, yeah, you are supporting someone for your benefit. You are supporting your people. Prejudice, bias, bigoted. But an easy explanation for a stereotype is a preconceived notion, right? Now, for example, if I say, Zia, that Jagan is a stereotypical Hindu, you can easily predict him. Okay, stereotypical Hindu. You can easily predict what kind of a character Jagan is. Good question, by the way, Zia. So you're right. Bigoted, prejudice, and then bias, right? Biased. These are words that have the same meaning, almost the same meaning. Sadly, no, Viren. Popova did not profess a eulogy for her dead husband. In the Bear, exactly, Nikolai Mihailovich denounces, Popova denounces Nikolai Mihailovich. I think I've answered your question already, Zia. Good question, by the way. Regardless, so if you call someone stereotypical, you can easily predict who they are. A stereotypical celebrity, like a golden boy, right? In the poem, Richard Cory is like a golden boy, a stereotypical celebrity. Write the intro section down real quickly, or please screenshot this. Ultra valuable this is. If you need some more time with the intro section, put your hands up, please. Want to ask, apart from what you're discussing here, so will you be discussing anything about our... we already talked about a lot about that, Amin. We talked about that already. True, true, Mariam. Personified love is whom the narrator is, whom the Nightingale was talking about, right? For love is wiser than philosophy, though she is wise, and mightier than power, though he is mighty. Flamed colored are his lips. Oh no, flame colored are his wings, and colored like flame is his body. Right? His lips are sweet as honey, and his breath is like frankincense. In that extract, the Nightingale was talking about personified love. He was not talking about, she was not talking about the young student. What are the expected extracts for part one? Naflas. That's really difficult to explain. We had a seminar series a few weeks ago. In that, we talked about it. So today I am prioritizing Richard Cory. Isn't the Bear an elegy? Oh, no, it's not an elegy. An elegy has to be a poem that laments over someone's death. Now, in the A-level syllabus, Farzan, there's a poem called Fisherman Mourned by His Wife by Patrick Fernando. In that poem, that poem is a elegy. That means the narrator shows her sadness because her husband is dead. Eulogy is a bit different. Popova was the same lady who speaks her husband and his past. Yes, Popova denounced her husband, right? She talked about her husband's infidelity. All right. So hope that you guys are done with this part. In the Nightingale and the Rose, the personification about love comes in both genders, right? True, Zia, it is. To be honest, the Nightingale has used what is it? Male personification, right? Masculine personification. But into the Nile by John Keats, we find masculine and feminine personification. Into the Nile by John Keats, there is masculine and feminine personification. Son of the Old Moon Mountains, masculine personification. And then Nurse of Swart Nations, a nurse being a breastfeeding mother, right? That is an example for feminine personification. And yes, To the Nile is also a eulogy. I forgot Baba Hajan. Absolutely. To the Nile is also a eulogy. It's actually an apostrophe, ne, the Baba Hajan. Apostrophes can't be eulogies. So the Nile is eulogical, but not a eulogy. I mean, a eulogy is never an... Oh, no, you're right. The Nile, to the Nile can be a eulogy also. Yes, to the Nile is also a eulogy, absolutely. But in our syllabus, we are focusing. We have Richard Cory also, and that is a eulogy nonetheless. For A levels exams, does O level questions? Absolutely not, Afri. Absolutely not. Regardless, let's move forward. In her chariot of gold, that is the moon in her chariot of gold, right, Zia? As per what I remember, it was the moon in her chariot of gold. Not love, right, Zia? That is the feminine personification. Read that part again, Zia. It is the moon in her chariot of gold and the sun in his. I remember that. I'll even show you, by the way, because I have a sweet is it to watch the moon in her chariot. Give me a second. Where is it? The white moon. Oh, come on, man. Oh, there we go. A chariot of pearl. There we go. Death is a great price to pay, that part, okay? And to watch the sun in his chariot of gold and the moon in her chariot of pearl, right? So it's not love. Here, the moon is personified using a female personification. All right, let's move forward then. So I hope that you guys have written this part down. Very quickly, if there are new pupils here and you want to join the best literature class in Sri Lanka, my pupils made me the best literature teacher in Sri Lanka. I cannot lie. I will work very hard with you guys. I will work very hard for you guys. And I will teach you all 3 novels. I am the only lit teacher in Sri Lanka, I promise, who teaches all 3 novels on Sundays. 2-hour sessions I have each for each novel. On Sundays, I teach The Vendor of Sweets for 2 hours, Bringing Tony Home for 2 hours, and The Prince and the Pauper for 2 hours. We have a paper class, we have a fast track class, and apart from that, we have a theory class also. If you guys want to join Javed sir's classes, you've got to join through isaac.com. We're done with the intro section. We'll be starting the first stanza very soon, okay? And don't worry about the intro section. If you can't write like this, try to come very near to this, okay? Try to come very close to this. So today we're having a free session at the moment. But if you guys want to join our paid sessions, you guys can join through isaac.com. It's AYZACK.com. And the first thing you have to do is click on join. And you can create an account in like 5 minutes. It will literally only take you 5 minutes to create the account, fill in your name and details, your correct email, think of a good password. And then once you have created your account through isaac.com, you can click on login. And let me show you what you guys will see if you log in as a student. All right. So the first thing that you guys are going to see is the notice board. That is an important. Regardless, you guys, if you go to the left console here and click under all classes and live classes, once you log into isaac.com, and if you click under all classes and live classes, you can find the classes that we teach here in isaac.com. All of these are exclusively online. You guys can learn them from the comfort of your home. If you want to join our literature classes, click under all subjects and click under English Lit. And these are the English Lit classes that we conduct every single week. So we have all of these sessions are taught 1 day per week. For example, these are our theory classes. This is our Monday fast track class. This is our paper class, and then we have 3 separate sessions for the novels, okay? I'm the only teacher, I promise you. A lot of teachers, they say that they teach all 3 novels, but then when the exam is near, they don't even talk about the novels. They sweep it under the rug. I promise it happened last year also. Do not make that mistake. If the teacher teaches only 1 day per week, they won't teach you the novel, right? if they only teach you 1 day per week, 2 hours per session, they don't have time to teach you the novels. We have separate sessions, separate presentations for the novels. Let me show you guys. For example, these days we are learning chapter number 1 for the vendor of sweets. So this is the presentation for chapter number 1. It's a valuable presentation that you guys can use to fast track the novels. So the fees are right on the screen, but it's a lot more economical if you join the VIP package. There is a VIP English literature package, and if you join that, it's 2,200. You can join the theory class, the fast track class right here. You can join the paper class, and you can join all 3 novel classes. That, I believe, is the most economical package. Regardless, sometimes you might have some inquiries. So you can drop your Javed Aya message whenever you can through WhatsApp. It's not 77-963-9434. If you are a new pupil who wants to learn lit, drop us a WhatsApp message using this number right here. I promise you guys won't be disappointed. And we also send you printed tutorials. So if you join our VIP slot, if you join the VIP package right here, you can also order printed tutorials. We're trying to give you the most valuable service possible regarding education. And if you want to receive our service, please join Isaac.com. It's AYZACK.com. Absolutely, Mariam. Javed Aya's number it is, right? Javed Aya's number it is. Satapatagala, write this number down. But will. Oh, yes. I mean, for the new pupils, okay, Thabit, it's always sad to see my old pupils leave. But this phone number is for our new pupils, all right? Satapatagala, write this phone number down. We'll start talking about Richard Cory. Let's go to stanza number 1 right now, okay? So in the beginning of this session, I promised you guys that I will teach you all of the techniques under Richard Cory. And you can cover almost all of the techniques in your syllabus just by learning about Richard Cory, okay? But right now, there's also another benefit. Not only can you order tutorials, but you guys can also watch recordings of the missed classes through Isaac.com. Now, I see a lot of online pupils struggle to get the recordings right. A lot of online pupils struggle to get recordings, don't they? So we have a solution for that also. Once you've made the payments, in Isaac.com, there is something called a calendar feature. And using the calendar feature, you guys can watch the recordings of the classes that you've missed. Now, for example, let's say you want to watch last Monday's recording, click under this tile here and go under eNotes, and you guys, go under watch recordings. For example, let's say you want to watch this recording here, all right? Click under the tile right here and go under eNotes. Oh, crap, not eNotes, apologies. Go under watch recording, and you guys can watch the recording in the website itself. Hope you understand that, okay? If you guys click under the calendar feature here, all right, you guys can watch the recordings through Isaac.com itself. That is such a good deal because I've seen pupils messaging the educators over and over again to get recordings right, and Zoom recordings sometimes expires, but our recordings in Isaac.com, they never expire. You can watch them unlimitedly and there are no time restrictions. Let me show you another one. For example, if you go under, let's say, this Saturday's class. This Saturday, we started learning the poem To the Evening Star by William Blake. If you guys want the tutorial, click under eNotes. You guys can get the tutorials also through Isaac.com, the PDF tutorials and printed tutorials. You guys can access through Isaac.com. And don't forget, you guys can also watch recordings through the calendar feature itself. Let me show you another recording. So we started learning to the evening star in the Saturday grade 10 class. If you click under watch recordings, you guys can access that recording also. So again, if you want to join isaac.com and upgrade your education, if you guys want to join isaac.com and you guys want to upgrade your education, drop your Javed Aya a message through this number right here on the screen. Will help you figure out literature, and we will give you a guaranteed A for the exam. This is for the new pupils. I'm talking about the 24 and 25 batch pupils. Done neither. Everyone clear, right? Now that you guys are clear about what we are going to do, where we are heading, right? You are clear about our direction. Let's start with stanza number 1 for Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. I'll give you guys a few minutes, okay? A few, like 3 minutes, I'll give you guys. Try to screenshot this and understand, try to go through the notes, because all of the techniques are explained clearly. I will explain them even better in a bit, but now take a screenshot and try to become familiar with the stanza. How many stanzas do we have in Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson, Baba? We have 4 stanzas, right? We've got 4 stanzas. We are starting the first stanza right now. I'll give you a few minutes. Get ready with the first stanza, okay? Get ready with your questions. Get ready with your doubts. I'll give you guys exactly 3 minutes. All right. Glad that you guys are here. Welcome back. We're talking about stanza number 1 in Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. 4 stanzas, 4 quartets, 4 quatrains. We are going to complete the poem Sata Patagala today. Remember the first person narration, right? What do you mean by first person narration? That means the narrator is talking about his own experiences. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him, right? Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. That means the narrator who represents the people on the pavement is talking about his experiences, right? A lot of people think that this is a third person narration. All right. A lot of people think that Richard Cory is the narrator talking about a third person. Not exactly. The narrator, even though his eulogy, what do you mean by eulogy? It means the narrator is praising Richard Cory, right? Again, a eulogy means that you are praising someone who is Setapochi, or you are praising something that is not a human. For example, the Nightingale's eulogy of love, and then, of course, the Nightingale, the narrator here in Richard Cory is praising Richard Cory, right? How does he praise Richard Cory? He was a gentleman from soul to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim. If you guys take a look at the verbs of these sentences, went downtown, looked at him, was a gentleman, right? These are all verbs that represents the past tense, right? These are verbs that represents the past tense. Now, when something happened in the past, if you use past tense, you mean that doesn't happen anymore. Now, for example, you don't say I went to school. You say I go to school, right? Now, for example, let's say that your school is MLC, okay? Let's say that you go to MLC, right? You don't say, Javed sir, I went to MLC. Can you understand that? If you use the simple past tense, you mean that thing doesn't happen anymore. Hope you guys can understand, okay? Hope you guys can understand. If you use the simple past tense, now, for example, I don't say that I taught literature. I say I teach literature, right? Which means it still happens. Even tomorrow, I will teach literature. I am still a literature teacher. But if I say I taught literature, I mean that I don't teach it anymore. If the narrator says that Richard Cory went downtown, that means Richard Cory does not go downtown anymore. If we looked at him, that means we are not looking at Richard Cory anymore. We don't see Richard Cory anymore. If he says that Richard Cory was a gentleman, Richard Cory isn't a gentleman anymore. So you can see that the narrative is in the what tense? It's in the past tense, right? We already talked about the alternating rhyme. And also you should know that downtown is the commercial area of a city. So Richard Cory went downtown, right? We people on the pavement, Baba, you guys know the pavement represents poverty, right? The pavement represents poverty. Now, in Tamil movies, sometimes they use the insult platform la pitchedu, right? Poite platform la pitchedu, right? That the word platform, pavement, right, is synonymous with poverty. So we are the people on the pavement and we represent poverty, right? So automatically there is another technique here. We talked about this technique. You take a rich man, right? You take a rich man and you put him next to a poor man or poor people. What is the technique that you guys get? Absolutely, with Mariam, you're right. The narrator is absolutely, you are right, Sayyida. The technique is juxtaposition, right? The technique right now is juxtaposition. Exactly, Minal. That means Richard Cory represents the rich, the people on the pavement represents the poor. Rich versus poor is a good example for juxtaposition. It's mentioned right here. Richard Cory and the people on the pavement are juxtaposed. That means you take two opposite things and you contrast them. Let's move forward very quickly. So, apart from the juxtaposition, Richard Cory was a gentleman from soul to crown. Now, this is a very good example. Take a look at this carefully. This is a very good example for a pun. The word crown is a pun because it gives out two meanings at the same time. Do you guys understand that? The word crown is a pun because it gives out two meanings at the same time. Absolutely, Amna, you're right. Asna, you are right. There's another pupil who doesn't have a name. You are also right. Juxtaposition is the technique we talked about. But now we are talking about another technique called a pun. A very good example for the pun technique was Big Match 1983. A really good example for the pun technique was Big Match 1983. So, because it gave you two ideas at the same time, right? When you think of Big Match, and again, Javed says phone number, if you guys want help with literature, do not hesitate to drop a WhatsApp message. Now, if you think about Big Match, there are two ideas that you can get out of it simultaneously. You think of a big cricket match, right? Big match is a term used to describe a cricket match between popular schools. In Sri Lanka, we have Royal St. Thomas, we have Anand Nalanda, we've got DS Senanayaka and Mahanama, right? So, big match. Sometimes your school, if you are from a boys' school, your school also might have a big match. However, big match has another meaning. It represents a gigantic match of fire. It represents a giant match of conflagration. That is what you mean by pun, right? That is what you mean by pun. Hope you guys can understand that. So, in Richard Cory, all right, in Richard Cory, the word crown is a pun because crown can mean two things, right? What are the two things that the crown represents? And yes, exactly. Sipathan and Thurston, true say that. Joseph's and Peter, Saint Joseph and Saint Peter's, absolutely. Those are examples for big matches, right? However, remember, the word crown means the top of his head. You guys might have learned of Jack and Jill went up the hill, right? Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. I honestly, even though I'm a literature teacher, to this day, I don't know why Jack and Jill went to the top of the hill. Like everyone thinks that Jack and Jill are brother and sisters, but it's not mentioned in the poem, right? But it says that Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down. How did Jack fall down? And broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Why did Jill come tumbling down? What were they doing up the hill? So even though I'm a literature teacher, to this day, I do not know what Jack and Jill were doing on top of the hill. It was obviously something that made them fall off the hill, right? So I don't know what kind of dangerous task that they were doing on top of the hill. Regardless, I can tell you this. Jack broke his crown, right? What do you mean by crown? Was Jack wearing an ornamental headdress? Or did Jack break the top of his head? What do you guys think? Jack broke the top of his head, right? So don't you agree that crown is a pun? It visualizes Cory's, the top of Cory's head. It also visualizes an ornamental headdress, right? It also visualizes an ornamental headdress worn by a king, the crown of a king. So that is the first pun effect that we find in Richard Cory. There is another pun also. That's not that important. Soul, right? S-O-L-E, soul, makes you think of S-O-U-L, soul, the spirit. S-O-L-E, soul, means the bottom of his leg. I hope you guys can understand that. The word soul means the bottom of his feet. It's mentioned here. The word soul means the bottom of his feet. So he was a gentleman from soul to crown. He was a gentleman from top of his head. He was a gentleman from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. He was a 100% gentleman. Hope you guys can understand. Richard Cory was a 100% gentleman, right? He was a gentleman from soul to crown, right? Absolutely. Like your Javed, sir, saying that. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Like your Javed, sir. Regardless, the word crown has another pun effect, right? The word crown has yet another pun effect. It means an ornamental headdress worn by a monarch, worn by a king. So this makes you think of Richard Cory like he's a king, right? This makes you visualize Richard Cory as a king, doesn't it? It was a symbol for two royalties, Jack and... Oh, it was a symbol of two royalties. Jack was a king who was killed or fallen, and that broke his crown means Jill was also... I see, okay, I had no idea, man. I thought it was a nursery rhyme, Viren. I thought they went on top of the hill to get wet. That's why they wanted water. I mean, to take water. I thought they went on top of the hill. My God, how wrong I was. Regardless, exactly. We mistook it all these days, right, Sayyada? We thought it was a different kind of a story. Apparently, Jack and Jill represents two kinds of royalties. That's amazing. Thanks a lot, Viren. Regardless, when we talk about, when we talk about the first stanza, you see that there are two puns here. Soul is the bottom of Cory's leg. So he's a gentleman from soul to crown, from the bottom of his leg to the top of his head. He is a gentleman, right? He is a gentleman from the bottom of his leg to the top of his head. However, the word soul makes you think of Richard Cory's spirit, right? He's a pure soul. And then the word crown, and then the word crown makes you think of a monarch. The word crown, right? I told you guys that the word crown makes you think of a monarch. Equally, the word imperially has the same meaning, right? The word imperially, right? Crown is something that represents a king. Even imperially also represents a king, doesn't it? Even the word imperially also represents a king. Imperially means belonging to a king. You guys should also remember that imperially slim is actually a metaphor. Imperially slim is a metaphor. Oh, no, it's not. It's not a metaphor. No, it sounds like a metaphor, though. Even today, I have a doubt whether it's a metaphor or not. It has an adjective and an adverb. Imperially slim. Imperial is angelically beautiful. Imperially slim. Slim, that is actually a gray area in our syllabus. But remember, the pun effect created through the word crown is confirmed by the word imperially. Both of these words will make you think of a what? Of a monarch. What do you mean by a monarch? A monarch is another word for a king, right? It's spelled monarch, right? Monarch. The word monarch, it's pronounced monarch. It means a king, a ruler. So Cory is visualized as a monarch. Again, is the narrator insulting Cory, or is he praising Cory? He is praising Cory, right? That's why the poem is a eulogy. That's why there is a eulogical meaning of the word. Eulogical meaning in Richard Cory. It's a eulogy. That means the narrator is praising Richard Cory. But tell me, is he directly praising Richard Cory, or is he praising Richard Cory after he died? He praises Richard Cory after Richard Cory died, right? He is not directly praising Richard Cory. He is not talking to Richard Cory while he praises him. But there was another character in our syllabus who praised another character all the time. We use the word flatter for that, right? When you praise someone directly, you go to that person and you praise that person. Is that's called flattery? Absolutely. It was the cousin. You're right, Aida. You're right, Ifat Mariam. You are right, Baba Hajan. And absolutely, Sayyida. You are also right. You are also right. It is the cousin's character who flattered Jagan, right? So remember, Nangis and Mallis, flatter is not similar to eulogy, okay? Eulogy means you are praising someone who died. Flattery means you are praising someone directly and you want something from them, right? The cousin is given free sweets at about 4 o'clock, right? At about 4 o'clock, 4:30 every day in the evening. The cousin would go to Jagan's shop to eat free sweets. So the cousin justifiably praises Jagan all the time. Absolutely, Baba Hajan. Flattery was his accredited business in life. You might remember the extract also. Regardless, there is no flattery here, because I've heard some teachers use the word flattery. It is not a flattery because Richard Cory is dead currently, right? As of the narration of the poem, Richard Cory was dead. It is a eulogy because the narrator is praising someone who died. One more time, whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. So we are people on the pavement. The narrator and the people on the pavement represent they represent the poor people of society, right? They represent the lower class of society. We can even use the word laborers. Again, I told you guys, when you learn literature, you have to think like a lawyer, all right? I can prove that these people on the pavement are laborers. How do I do that? If you guys look at the last stanza in Richard Cory, if you guys look at the last stanza, they say, so on we worked. If they are working poor people of the working class, right? If they are poor people of the working class, you should know that they are laborers, aren't they? So on we worked and waited for the light. We can prove that these people on the pavement were in fact laborers, right? We can prove that these people on the pavement represented by the narrator are people of the working class. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. There is juxtaposition there also, right? There is clearly an example for juxtaposition there, right? We people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from soul to crown, clean-favored, imperially slim. The pun effect of the word crown visualizes Cory as a monarch, and apart from that, the word imperially slim, right? The wording imperially slim also makes you think of a monarch, doesn't it? Makes you think of a king. So these are the pun effects that we found in Richard Cory, right? Soul is the bottom of his feet. Crown is the top of his head. Cory was a gentleman from soul to crown. I want you guys to screenshot this because this note explains what the stanza talks about. I can't read the entire note here because we are looking at the ultra important parts of the first stanza. What's the most important part? The most important part of the background of the first stanza is the juxtaposition that happens between Cory and the people on the pavement. Who represents the people on the pavement? The narrator. We people on the pavement looked at him. What do the people on the pavement symbolize? They symbolize the lower class of society, the working class of society. All right. Did I get another color to type the words except orange? Where was orange there, though? I'm not very. I can't see orange though, Nangi. But you guys can screenshot this, okay? You guys can screenshot this because I don't think you guys can write this down. We won't have enough time for it. We won't have enough time for it. So screenshot this as quick as you guys can. So Robinson creates the social dichotomy by juxtaposing the likeness of Cory, who represents the socially elite. What do you mean by socially elite? The higher class, right? The rich class of society, the rich of society, and the people on the pavement who represent the lower tier of society. Accordingly, the narrator, who is a member of the people on the pavement, professes a eulogy. We talked about what a eulogy is, right? What do you mean by a eulogy? It means you are praising someone who is set the pochi, right? A eulogy, the only two eulogies in our syllabus is Richard Cory, and then there was another eulogy of love delivered by the nightingale in The Nightingale and the Rose. All right. Firstly, Cory is outlined as a gentleman from his sole, the bottom of his feet, to his crown, the top of his head. Nevertheless, the masterful pun effects evoked through the words soul and crown further embellishes Cory's persona. Embellishes means decorates. The wording soul is a homophone for the word soul, S-O-U-L, which insinuates, hints that Cory was a pure soul, confirmed via the attribute clean-favored. So clean-favored means he liked clean things, right? But then remember, clean can mean hygienic, or clean can mean something away from sin. So for example, if I say that, now in a Dettol ad, if they talk about cleanliness, they talk about hygiene. But let's say you say that Fatima is a clean girl, is a pure girl, or in Sinhala, if you say Parishuddhai, you mean she is such an innocent and modest girl, right? Can you understand that? In Sinhalese, if you say Fatima is Parishuddhai, right? Fatima Parishuddhavat Kantavaki, right? Or in Tamil, I think, I don't know, what do you say Parishuddha in Tamil? My Tamil speaking people tell me, what do you call clean in Tamil? So I think Tuime Anad, right? Tuime, isn't that also? Yeah, Parisuddham. Thanks a lot, Mariam. You're the best. So as I was saying, you use those words to indicate that the person has not committed any crime, right? Has not done any sin, has not committed a sin. So Cory was clean-favored, and the word soul, S-O-L-E, is a pun for the word S-O-U-L. We talked about what puns are, giving two meanings at the same time using the same word. That is what you call a pun, right? So the word soul makes us think that Cory was a pure soul. It's confirmed through the word clean-favored, while the word crown conjures means creates, an image of an ornamental headdress which compares Cory to a monarch. This royal aspect of Cory is further confirmed by the term imperially. Do you understand that? The word crown, all right, the word crown and the word imperially were not put together by accident. It's a purposeful kind of an image, right? The word crown and the word imperially were put together purposefully. That means the narrator wants you to imagine Cory as a monarch, The narrator wants you to visualize Cory as a monarch. Absolutely, Sayyida. Another example for where we found the word clean was in Farewell to Barn and Stack Country, right? I wish you strength to bring you pride and a love to keep you clean. I wish you strength to bring you pride and a love to keep you clean. So, clean in that example means away from sin, doesn't it? In that example, the word clean means away from sin. So, Imperial Islam, which silhouettes Cory's royal demeanor. Write this part down, Baba. Love it. Even you learned. Of course, you did say it. I'm so proud of you. Screenshot this part down, Baba, because I don't think that you guys will have time to write it down. Are there more similar words for monarch? Absolutely. A king, a ruler, right? Majesty, right? Monarch. Monarch means king, but I think monarch is the best word that you can use in this example. You can say that Robinson outlines Cory as a monarch using the pun effect of the word crown and using the word imperially, right? Imperially, that's a adverb, right? Imperially. Cory is visualized as a monarch. So we talked about the juxtaposition, right? We talked about the pun effect. We also talked about Cory's appearance. And this brings us to stanza number 2. Stanza number 2 has been explained perfectly, all right? Perfectly, or Javed sir has explained it. I'll give you guys 3 minutes, screenshot this, and go through all of the parts individually so you guys can get a rough understanding of it. Patriarchy means men ruling, right, Mariam? So it can be, I mean, the word patriarchy and matriarchy can be used with the word monarchy, right? Monarchy. Monarchy means either a man or woman is ruling. But patriarchy means a man is ruling. And matriarchy means a woman is ruling. So, yes, the word patriarchy is a bit similar to the word monarchy. Absolutely, you're right, Baba Hajan. We can even say that the eagle established a patriarchy, right? Using masculine personification, Tennyson establishes a patriarchy in the eagle. Absolutely genius you are. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. Screenshot this and get comfortable with the second stanza. We'll be done very soon, okay? All right. Welcome back. Let's talk about stanza number 2 right now. We have a understanding about Richard Cory's character, don't we? You guys should know that Richard Cory is a gentleman from soul to crown, as per what the narrator told us. He is visualized as a gentleman from the top of his head to the bottom of his leg. The bottom of his leg was his soul, SOLE. The top of his head was his crown. However, the word crown was a pun. It made you compare Cory to a monarch, right? The visual which was created through the pun effect. I hope you guys can understand. The visual that was created through the pun effect compares Cory to a monarch, doesn't it? So, as I was saying, you should know that that exact same eulogy is continued into stanza number 2. And he was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked. So, what do you mean by quietly arrayed? Quietly means without making a lot of noise, without asking for too much attention, right? Quietly means without making too much noise, without wanting too much attention. Arrayed means dressed, right? Absolutely, Fatima, you're right. So, what does this mean? This means that Cory did not dress to seek attention, and he was always quietly arrayed. That means Cory did not dress to seek attention. He was quietly arrayed. He did not want unwanted attention, in the sense he did not dress loudly. What do you mean by dressing loudly? That means you dress in bright, vibrant, weird colors, right? You dress vibrantly, you dress weirdly. Like, you guys might have heard of the Met Gala, right? The Met Gala, there's like a really famous celebrity show called the Met Gala, I believe, right? So, of course, the people in the Met Gala, right? They dress loudly, right? They dress to seek attention. They dress to get your attention. Hope you guys can understand that, okay? So Cory did not dress to seek attention. Absolutely, Fatima, you're right. Zendaya was like kind of famous this year, I remember. She's right here, by the way. I mean, exactly. Who would have known that there are people here who are fans of Zendaya? All right. Like Silk Smitha. I love it. Okay. Did not dress like Silk Smitha, right? I love it. I love it. Regardless, Cory was quietly arrayed, right? He did not dress up because he wanted attention. He was always human when he talked. So he talked in a very kind way. Human here means humane, right? He talked kindly. He talked with compassion, and he was always human when he talked. But still, he fluttered pulses when he said good morning, and he glittered when he walked. Now, for example, imagine that you are a fan of BTS, right? And if a BTS member were to come to you and wish you good morning or greet you with good morning, that would flutter your pulses, right? Imagine if you were a fan of Vijay Deverakonda, right? Deverakonda, right? I call him Anaconda. And if he were to seek you out, and if he were to greet you a good morning, that would make your pulse flutter. Abdullah, you're a fan of Zendaya? That's amazing. So imagine, Abdullah, if Zendaya were to walk up towards you, and if she were to greet you good morning, would that not flutter your pulse? But that's a hyperbolic statement. You guys can understand, right? But still, he fluttered pulses when he said good morning. So he's such an important person. He is such a celebrity that he when he greets the ordinary people good morning, they are excited, right? The word flutter pulses makes the ordinary people excited. Hope you guys can understand, right? So the word flutter pulses is actually a hyperbolic statement. The pulse was not really fluttering, but the hyperbolic statement visualizes that Cory was such an important person that when he greeted the people good morning, they would be excited because such an important person, because Cory was such an important person, even though he behaved humbly, right? The word that you guys can get out of this is humble. Cory was a humble person, even though he was considered to be a celebrity. Hope you understand that, okay? Really easy. So, one more time. And he was always quietly arrayed. That means he dressed simply, dressed modestly, right? I'll even give you guys a shortcut here. Quietly arrayed means he dressed modestly. He dressed modestly. He was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked, but still he fluttered pulses when he said. So I told you guys that fluttered pulses is a hyperbolic statement. The pulse did not really flutter, right? Hope you guys can understand that. The pulse did not really flutter. What do hyperbolic statements achieve? What do hyperbolic statements achieve? They basically make you visualize something. Now, for example, if you tell me that, sir, my mama will kill me if I fail my exam, will she really kill you, or is that a hyperbolic statement? That is clearly a hyperbolic statement, right? Your mama is not gonna risk going to jail by killing you. Hope you guys can understand, okay? Your mama is not gonna risk going to jail by killing you. So when you tell me that your mama will kill you if you fail your exam, you mean that your mother is going to be so angry at you, right? You are going to be in loads of trouble. So can you understand the meaning of hyperbole, the application of hyperbole? If you are really hungry, you would say that I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. And then your friend might say, Machang, I'm so hungry, I can eat an elephant. So you visualized your hunger, right? You visualized your hunger, and your friend visualizes her hunger. And your friend's hunger is greater than yours as per the way she visualized it. And then you tell your friend, Machang, I'm so hungry, I can eat your mother. So you're visualizing your hunger, right? So I can eat a horse, I can eat an elephant, are hyperbolic statements, but still, these hyperbolic statements are not true. They're not true, obviously, right? You can't actually eat a horse. You can't actually eat a horse or elephant. That is an example for a hyperbolic statement. And what does the hyperbolic statement accomplish? It visualizes. It visualizes your emotions, doesn't it? Hyperbolic, absolutely. Into the Nile, did we have hyperbole? Oh, yes, nurse of SWAT nations since the world began, right? Nurse of SWAT nations since the world began, because the narrator was not there when the world began, right? In the poem To the Nile by John Keats, there is a line that says that the river Nile was the nurse of SWAT nations. What do you mean by nurse of SWAT nations? She is the breastfeeding mother of the African nations, nurse. So nurse is a metaphor, but since the world began, right? Since the world began is a hyperbolic statement because the narrator was not there when the world began, right? I'm going to move forward. One more time. So here we see the hyperbolic statement, fluttered pulses, visualizes. So hyperbole visualizes, right? Now, if you're really angry, what kind of hyperbolic statement will you guys use? I'm what with anger? I'm burning with anger, right? If you are really hungry, you would be burning with anger, won't you? So here, The fluttered pulses part visualizes the excitement. I've mentioned that here, right? Excited. The people are excited. Fluttered pulses visualizes the excitement of the people. When he said, "Good morning," and he glittered when he walked. But tell me, the action of saying good morning, is it like a special kind of an action or is it a common action? It's a common action, but Cory is such a celebrity that when he wishes ordinary people good morning, they feel excited. So even now, I want you guys to imagine your favorite celebrity and imagine that celebrity coming to you and greeting you good morning. You are gonna feel excited, right? That's basically it. So, what are the words that you can tell me? Cory dressed modestly. Cory was a humble person. He was a kind person. Humane, he was, right? Humane, kind person, he was. Yet he was a celebrity. Even though he was humble, he was a celebrity. And when he greeted people, good morning, they were excited. Hope you understand that, okay? Hope you understand that. So, Satapatagala, let's move forward. So, there's a note part here. You guys can screenshot this, regardless of Cory's celebrity status, which is visualized through the hyperbolic statement. He fluttered pulses and he glittered when he walked. Isn't that what celebrities do? What do you mean by glitter when he walk? He was අර සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ කැපිලා පේනවා right වෙට්ටි වෙලඟරේ right he was so popular that you could easily identify him right he was so popular that you could easily identify him that is what you mean by he glittered when he walked all right but still, he fluttered pulses when he said good morning, and he glittered when he walked. These are both hyperbolic statements. He fluttered pulses, and he glittered when he walked. Are hyperbolic statements. Cory dresses and speaks humbly. Robinson magnifies the sheer excitement experienced by Cory's fanatics. Fanatics means followers or fans, right? Fans. Cory's fanatics, fans, when he amicably means in a friendly way, amicably greets them a good morning. Accordingly, Cory chooses to address his admirers humbly, which is congruent with his modest attire. Well, a very good idea, right? Modest attire. Modest clothing, right? Outlined via the wording quietly arrayed. Brilliant. These are perfect, valid ideas that you guys can use in the exam. And this professionalism is what you are supposed to represent in the exam. I'll give you guys 3 minutes with stanza number 3. You can note this down or you can screenshot this and you can go through all of the points that I have outlined. In 3 minutes, I will explain this part again. 2 more stanzas and we are done, okay? We'll be done very soon. We only have 2 more stanzas to complete. You guys all comfortable with the writing, I'm sure. I guess that, it's kind of difficult to see, but I hope that you guys can understand the direction that we are heading here. So this is stanza number 3. And in this stanza, we are focusing again on a eulogical kind of a narrative. What do you mean by eulogy? Baba, we talked about this a lot. Many times we talked about this, didn't we? What do you mean by eulogy? It means eulogy. It means you are praising someone who is dead. You are praising, or the narrator. The narrator is praising someone who is dead, someone who is Setapochi, or a non-human, or praising a non-human, someone who is dead or a non-human. For example, the Nightingale's eulogy of love, right? The Nightingale was professed her accolade, or she professed how she admires love, right? What does she say? For love is wonderful, for love is wiser than philosophy, though she is wise, and mightier than power, though he is mighty. Flamed colored are his wings, and colored like flame is his body. That's a good example for a eulogy. So here also, the narrator continues his eulogy, right? The narrator continues his eulogy of Richard Cory, right? And he was rich, yes, richer than a king. That's also hyperbole, right? No one can be richer than a king. It's hyperbole. For example, if you say that you are burning, if you say that you are burning with anger, you aren't really burning, right? If you say that your mom will kill you if you fail your exams, your mom is not really going to kill you, right? That's a good example for hyperbole. So here, Cory was not really richer than a king. Hope you understand that. So it's a hyperbolic statement. I can show the previous slide, by the way, real quickly. You mean these slides, Fatima? No worries, Nangi. I'll actually send you guys the PDF through WhatsApp. If you guys can send me a message through WhatsApp, and I will share this PDF with you. And there are more PDFs for other lessons also. So if you guys want to access those lessons, drop us a message through WhatsApp. Either I or the admin will reply to you guys, and we can send you all kinds of PDFs that you guys need. And yes, there are even slides in this PDF that we didn't talk about. So let's talk about stanza number 3, Nangis and Mallis. And right now, we are talking about how Cory is praised even more, right? Cory, I'll message you since I have the exams the day after tomorrow. My God, okay. You're not talking about the O-level exam, right, Fatima? I think this is a different exam. All right. Regardless. Now, though, all right. Now, though, we're talking about another hyperbolic statement. And Cory, was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. Grace means upper class behavior. It means good manners. But usually when we say someone is graceful, we mean that they behave like someone from the upper class, and admirably schooled in every grace. He's taught about upper class behavior. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. Who admired Cory, by the way? The narrator and the people on the pavement, right? It is the narrator and the people on the pavement. The narrator who represents the people on the pavement. He was the person who admired Cory from the beginning of the poem. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from soul to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim. Nominal PDFs are free, and you're already a pupil, right? If you're a VIP, you can access this PDF through our calendar feature, Minal. The printed tutorials are free for the VIPs, okay? So again, you're a VIP Nangi. So obviously you can get the printed tutorials for free as well. Regardless, true, Sayyada, you can say that the narrator is a delegate of the people on the pavement. What do you mean by delegate? Well done, Sayyada. What do you mean by delegate? A delegate is a representative. The narrator is a delegate of the people on the pavement, right? The narrator is a delegate for the people on the pavement. Why not? The narrator is a delegate for the lower tier of society, right? For the working class, maybe. Working class. We can prove that the narrator and the people on the pavement represent the working class. Absolutely, we can send you the recording of this session as well. Even now, this session is being streamed on YouTube, but if you need any more recordings, if you need any more PDF tutorials, or if you guys want to join our paid classes, drop us a WhatsApp message as quick as you guys can. Either me or the admin will reply to you guys. We have an admin in isaac.com as well, because I get like almost like 50 messages per day through WhatsApp, and I can't reply to all of them. The narrator is a delegate or a representative. A representative of nature, right? Representative of nature is no, of not nature, apologies, of the people on the pavement, apologies. A representative of the people on the pavement. Regardless, they admire Richard Cory, right? The poem is an accolade of Richard Cory, isn't it? And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. He has been taught upper class behavior, right? Admirably schooled in every grace. Now, for example, you might remember a character in the vendor of sweets called Grace, but that's her name, okay? But you can say that in The Prince and the Pauper, the nobles were graceful, right? The nobles in The Prince and the Pauper were graceful. In The Nightingale and the Rose, the guests in the Princess Ball were graceful, right? The guests in the Princess Ball were graceful. Hope you understand. Regardless. Right now, though, we are talking about how Cory was graceful, not grateful, graceful. He has upper class behavior. Again, upper class behavior also complements the theme of society, right? In fine means short and sweet. We thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. Forget about enjambment. Enjambment means the line doesn't stop. The line continues. You see, the line doesn't stop here. With everything, the line continues. But what does this mean? So the people on the pavement were inspired by Cory. They wanted to emulate Cory. What do you mean by emulate? Copyright. Like you guys emulate in the exam. Like you guys emulate in your exams. These people on the pavement also wanted to emulate Cory's character. Now, for example, you have celebrities, right? Your favorite celebrities. Sometimes you guys might emulate them. You might walk the way they walk. You might dress the way they dress, right? You might talk the way they talk. So you might emulate your celebrities. Isn't that what the people on the pavement have done here? The people on the pavement, right? The people on the pavement, or the narrator who represents the people on the pavement wanted to emulate Cory. Ironically, though, Cory was envied by many. Envied means those people wanted to be like him. They wanted what he had. Another drama in your syllabus uses the word envy. Do you guys remember what that drama was? It was obviously, absolutely, Sayyada, you're right, Twilight of a Crane. Unzu says that he envies Sodo. I can even show you guys the word. In the drama, Twilight of a Crane. Remember, in our syllabus, there are only 2 dramas, Baba. And Twilight of a Crane is the tragedy, right? A tragic drama, tragic ending. I have the ebook of Twilight of a Crane here, right? So as I was saying, the word envy. How I envy him, right? Yes, indeed, Yohoyo is the luckiest man in the world to get such a nice wife. What's the name of Yohoyo's wife? Sue, right? Sue. She's not really a wife or woman. She's actually a ghost of a hen crane. She is a woman who could shape shift, right? She's a woman who could shape shift. All right. That means she could take, she is a hen crane that can take the form of a woman. Much better. Yes, indeed, Yohoyo is the luckiest man in the world to get such a nice wife. Demicrane. I love the idea. I don't think you can use that word though, Danushik. Demicrane, I don't think is a correct word. You could say that she's the ghost of a hen crane, right? Why not Bavahajan? She had dual identities. True, true. To get such a nice wife like Sue, since she came here, he never does anything but sleep by the fireside all day long. How I envy him, says Unzu, right? Unzu envies Yohoyo, doesn't he? So, ironically, though the people on the pavement envied Richard Cory, did he deem his life worthy enough to live? I'm very sure. Why not? You're right, Viren. Bewitched hen crane is also a really good idea. She was a bewitched hen crane, or she was a ghost of a hen crane. Bewitched sounds even better. Well done, man. So ironically, even though the people on the pavement wanted to be like Cory and admirably schooled in every grace, in fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. Even though the people on the pavement wanted to be like Cory, Cory did not value his life right. Cory did not want to live his life. So you guys might remember there was an actor called Sushant Singh who committed suicide in 2020, I guess. So, like, that's a very good example, right? For someone like Richard Cory. Even though he was envied by many, he did not deem his life worthy enough to live, but some people call it a murder. I don't know. There's a conspiracy that Sushant Singh was murdered, but if you look at the face value of the story, then it feels like Richard Cory's narration, right? Regardless, yeah, some people do say it's a murder, though. You're right. Essentially, Cory was admired by his graceful conduct, was an inspiration for the mere mortals of the pavement. Mere mortals are normal people, right? Mere mortals of the pavement who believed that they could enhance their subpar means below standards, enhance their subpar living standards by emulating, copying. In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. True. You're right, Viren. It's good if we don't use the word envy because you're right. I think you are one of my pupils, Viren. True. Because even envy is a negative word, right? True. I agree, actually. In the past also, I did not use the word envy. So yeah, don't use this word in the exam. I've mentioned it here. True. Absolutely. Well done. Because envy is a negative word, right? But the people really envied Cory. They wanted to be like Cory. So we use the word emulate. Their subpar living standards by emulating the likeness of Cory, which is confessed in the proclamation. We thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. Speculatively, Cory's wealth, which is exaggerated in the statement, richer than a king, was subjected to, that should not use the word envy, right? Speculatively, the reason for this admiration, right? The reason for this excessive admiration was Cory's wealth, right? Which is exaggerated in the statement, richer than a king. Isn't that true? Why do we admire a lot of celebrities? For example, why do boys admire Elon Musk? Because he's the richest man in the world, right? Absolutely. So money will make you admire someone. Isn't that communicated here? And he was rich. Yes, richer than a king. And that is a reason why Cory is narrated by, Cory is admired by the narrator. Hope you understand, okay? Let's move forward. Essentially, Cory was admired for his graceful conduct. Cory, who was admired for his graceful conduct, was an inspiration for the mere mortals of the pavement who believed that they could enhance their subpar living standards by emulating the likeness of Cory, which is confessed in the proclamation. What's a proclamation? Statement. True, you're right, Viren. We can even say that overwealth is toxic. True. I mean, wealth or admiring wealth itself is toxic, right? Admiring someone, liking someone due to their wealth is toxic, isn't it? Proclamation means statement. Love it. So we already, can you explain the word envy? Yes, I can either. Envy means you want what someone else has. Now, for example, let's say that your neighbor gets 9 A's for their O levels. You envy your neighbor. You want what they have, but envy is a negative word. So if we don't use this word in the exam, it's a lot more smarter. Hope you understand that, okay? You want what they have, envy. So, for example, Yehoyo was envied by Unzu, right? Unzu envied Yehoyo for his wife, and Yehoyo was able to make money easily, right? We talked about that. And in this case, Cory is admired by the public because of his wealth. We can prove it also. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king. In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. And here is the final stanza, all right? We have come to the very end of this session. I'm very proud that you guys were a part of this. I'll give you guys 3 more minutes. You guys can note this down or screenshot this, and you guys can go through every individual piece of note. I'll explain this in 3 minutes. And once we are done with this explanation, the seminar will be over. I'm ultra proud that you guys were here. Especially there are pupils here who have their exams tomorrow. There are grade 10 pupils here who are new to literature, but they still have the need to learn. And if there are grade 10 pupils or new grade 11 pupils who want more information about our classes, if you guys want more of these tutorials, PDFs, drop us a message, okay? You're an O-level student, Danushik. Sad man, sad to see you go. I have a question. I'm having my lit exam the day after tomorrow. How to face and succeed? Oh, long answer questions. I see. Okay, Fatima. To be honest, that's a long explanation. To write analyses, right? Long answer questions are analyses. And I think you are a grade 10 pupil, right, Fatima? Grade 10, I guess. You are not from the 23 batch. So my advice is learn to write a valuable intro section. That's the first thing you have to do. And the next thing is try to memorize the important extracts. True story, Sayeda, genius you are. Try to memorize the important extracts. That's all you have to do. Work on a valuable intro section and memorize the important extracts of the poem. If you can memorize the entire poem, memorize the important extracts of the prose, the dramas, the novels. I don't think you have the novel for the first term, but memorize the important extracts because they will definitely help you in the exam to write analyses. So I'll give you guys exactly 3 minutes. Scrutinize this, go through each and individual word. And to be honest, Fatima, we write analyses every single week in our classes. So if you join our class of papers or the Monday fast track class, we will write analyses every single week. So that is a really smart way to learn to write analyses. All of my pupils honestly learn to write analyses like that. So practice makes perfect, right, Fatima? I'll see you guys in 3 minutes. And once we are done with this stanza, the session will be over. We are almost done, aren't we? Here is the last stanza that we are going to cover, and afterwards the session will be over. Really proud that you guys were a part of this experience. Right now, we're talking about stanza number 4, right? Real quickly, do you see that the tone has changed? The tone, that's a very important word. What do you mean by tone, Baba? Tone is the emotion of the narrator. All right? The tone is the emotion of the narrator. So, how do we see the emotion of the narrator? Can we see the narrator's face? Can we measure the narrator's body language? Absolutely not. The only method of identifying the emotion of the narrator is through reading what the narrator has said here, right? So, what has happened to the emotion of the narrator? There is a shift, not shit, shift. There is a shift of the tone, right? There is a shifting of the tone, right? So, how is the tone? How has the tone shifted? How has the tone shifted? So, you guys see that now the narrator is very impersonal, uncaring. He's a lot impersonal. In the beginning, he was admiring Cory, right? In the beginning, his tone was admirational. Now it is a impersonal tone. It doesn't have emotionless tone, right? So on we worked and waited for the light when the narrator says that he worked. We can imagine, we can join the dots, we can connect the dots, and we can come to a conclusion that the narrator belongs to the working class, doesn't he? The narrator and the people on the pavement, whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. We people on the pavement, whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. So, do you understand that this is an example this is proof that the narrator is a laborer? And you also know that laborer, right? The working class issues are connected to society, right? The issues of the working class is directly connected to society. Isn't society the theme of Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson? 4-stanza poem, right? 4 quatrains, and revolved around a socialite called Richard Cory. And went without the meat and cursed the bread. So there is a symbolic meaning here. But actually, we can't talk about the symbolic meaning because it is out of syllabus. Meat and bread has a symbol, but here we can say that they did not eat, right? These laborers were working without food. So we are bypassing the symbolic meaning and we are looking at the literal meaning, right? A true story, Sayeda. You're right. We call them the Nirdana Panthiya. True. The lower class of society. But here it's the laborers, right? The working class of society. And went without the meat and cursed the bread. They did not even eat while working. So don't laborers do that. They do, right? Some laborers, they work without even eating. Hope you understand that. The laborer, right? The laborers in this example, they work rigorously without even eating. It's a very common thing. If you guys have watched Tamil movies, right? Vijay's Tamil movies, for example, Katti, right? You might have seen examples like this. The laborers working even without eating. So on we worked and waited for the light and went without the meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head. So why did they go without the meat? Why? And of course, you're right, even Velekar, and I think you mean Sivakarthigans, right? Of course, they talk about the working class people, true. And you see that the working class people sometimes have to work even without food, right? So they went without the meat and they cursed the bread because they did not have enough food. We can use the word sustenance. That's a very professional sounding word for food. By the way, what is the novel that we have found the word sustenance in? bringing Tony home. The narrator talks about his sustenance. When any bringing Tony home pupils here? When the narrator, Prince and the Pauper, I'm not very sure, Baba Hajan, maybe, but bringing Tony home, I can remember very clearly. I'll double check the Prince and the Pauper. But do you guys remember when the narrator misplaced his ration books? He misplaced his ration books. Sustenance. He misplaces his ration books, the narrator. ANCE, right? ANCE. There we go. Oh, come on. ANCE, sustenance. Oh, my God. Give me a second, okay? I was sure we had that word in bringing Tony home. Because when he realizes that he misplaced his ration books, he says that it was the only means of your weekly sustenance, the only means, it's not available. Weekly, the only means, weekly one second. Oh, subsistence, not sustenance. Apologies. It's subsistence, Nangis and Malis. Subsistence means survival. Sustenance, my God, subsistence is the word, okay? Subsistence means survival. Sustenance means food. I think you're right in that case, Baba Hajan. It must have been the Prince and the Pauper. Is it okay to write the bringing Tony home context question and the vendor of sweets analysis? Absolutely, Sayyeda. Completely fine. You can do that in the exam. It's also smart. If you think that the vendor of sweets context question is too difficult, actually, no, I don't remember where I found the word sustenance, but it was in our syllabus. Sadly, I don't know where I found it from. Regardless, we can use the word sustenance instead of, oh, maybe the vendor of sweets. Agreed. True. I used the word in the Prince and the Pauper presentation, true, but I remember I found the word somewhere in our syllabus, Baba Hajan. Maybe in the vendor of sweets. And I'm the only teacher who has an actual ebook for the vendor of sweets. I typed the entire ebook word by word, I promise. I typed the entire ebook word by word, painstakingly. You cannot find this online. All of these I had typed because I'm that crazy about the syllabus. I'm that crazy about the syllabus. All right. Let me check right now. Sustenance. Sadly, no, right? I don't remember where I found that word, but it was in our syllabus, man. It was in our syllabus. Maybe I found the word subsistence, but sustenance, I can't remember, man. Sadly. But we found it somewhere in our syllabus. Might have been in the A-level syllabus there, but there are no stories that talk about food like that. It should be the vendor of sweets, but sadly, I can't find it. So on we worked and waited for the light and went without the meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, right, went home and put a bullet through his head. What does that mean? It means that Cory has committed suicide, right? And Richard Cory, one calm summer night. So even though the night was calm, so usually, right? Usually, the winter is the most hardest season of the year. Don't you guys think? It is the Prince and the Pauper, is it? I'll double check that, okay? I don't remember. Maybe it was the Prince and the Pauper, though. I think I checked the Prince and the Pauper. I'll check again, though, because I really want to find out where the word sustenance was from. Maybe it is the Prince and the Pauper. There's a dude whose name I can't read, though. Give me a second, okay? I'll double check that once again. Because again, this is how you actually learn the syllabus. So you remember the important words from selected places. And you go back to clear your doubts. One more time. Sadly, no. Sadly, no. But I'm sure I found the word somewhere in our syllabus. But that's all right. Sustenance means food, right? Yeah, exactly, Mariam. I mean, I also remember coming across the word, but I don't remember exactly from where, though. Okay. Let's move forward then. Let's move forward. So on we worked and waited for the meat. I waited for the light, right? What does light symbolize? Light symbolizes a bright future. Where in our syllabus have we seen the word light? Light thy bright torch of love. We found it in to the evening star. Thou fair-haired angel of the evening, now whilst the sun rests on the mountains, light thy bright torch of love, thy radiant crown put on, right? Light thy bright torch of love. The word light we found into the evening star, and here the word light indicates a bright future. We waited for the light and went without the meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head. You guys know that winter is the most brutal season in European and American countries. In the West and in European countries, the most brutal season is the most brutal season is winter. It sustains, I see. Okay. All right. The most brutal season is winter, isn't it? So that means in winter, there is a scarcity of food. It's cold. You get sick easily, right? So winter is the most depressing season in European countries, even though Christmas has made Sri Lankans believe that winter is a happy season, right? Maybe you guys watch Home Alone, right? Maybe you guys watch Home Alone, and maybe you guys might have thought that winter is a happy season. No, it's not, because people die during winter. Homeless people die during winter. There is no agriculture during winter, and apart from that, during winter there is a scarcity of food. But Cory commits suicide during one calm summer night. So the season doesn't reflect his suicidal thoughts. The season doesn't really complement the gruesomeness of his choice. Hope you guys can understand that, okay? Yeah, true story, Itachi. That's a really interesting sounding name, okay? True, why not? You're right, Sayeda. Even in Twilight of a Crane, you guys might have seen that Yo-Yo was stranded in the snow blanketed field, right? In Twilight of a Crane, you guys might have found Yo-Yo stranded in the snow blanketed field. This right here is the last slide for the day. I'll give you guys a few seconds, a few minutes, screenshot this and go through this, okay? The last slide for the day and we are done. And don't forget, you guys can contact Javed sir whenever you guys want. If you need help with literature, if you want to join our exact classes, if you want to clear doubts, make sure you drop us a message through WhatsApp. The last slide, I'll give you guys a few minutes with this, okay? No need to write this down. All you guys have to do is follow through with the paragraph, okay? Screenshotting this is perfectly fine. And also, you guys can drop me a message through WhatsApp if you guys want the PDF note for the lesson. All right, you guys done it? Let's move forward then. Right now, we're talking about the final stanza, the final note for the final stanza. The final stanza betrays the previously established eulogy, right? The final stanza betrays the previously established eulogy, while the tone of the narrative shifts from light-hearted to serious. So the tone goes from light-hearted. To be honest, it was an admirational tone right in the beginning. But then the tone becomes serious. Naturally, Cory was a beacon of hope. A beacon of hope is an inspiration, right? Cory was a beacon of hope who motivated the people on the pavement to seek a prosperous future, symbolized by the wording and waited for the light. True, right? These people were looking for a prosperous future. So, of course, these people were waiting for the light. No, this is not a sonnet, Danushik, it's not a sonnet. The only sonnet in our syllabus is To the Nile by John Keats. A 14-line poem with a formal rhyming scheme is actually a sonnet. All right, so the only sonnet in our syllabus is To the Nile by John Keats. Even To the Evening Star is not a sonnet, because in To the Evening Star, there was no formal rhyme scheme. Here, this is not at all a sonnet. This is actually a eulogy. The final stanza betrays the previously established eulogy, while the tone of the narrative shifts from light-hearted to serious. Naturally, Cory was a beacon of hope who motivated the people on the pavement to seek a prosperous future, symbolized by the wording, and waited for the light. Moreover, the workers engaged in tireless labor and forsook. Forsook means abandoned. Sounds like a guy's name. Forsook. No. Forsook means abandoned their sustenance. Sustenance can food, right? So on we worked and waited for the light and went without the meat and cursed the bread. They have forsook their sustenance. They have abandoned their food, believing that accumulated wealth would one day elevate them towards Cory's status. That is a misconception of society, right? Accumulation of wealth would one day elevate them towards Cory's status. So in the poem, the main reason why these people admire Cory is his wealth, right? Even though they say he's a humble person, gentleman from soul to crown, quietly arrayed, human when he talked, fluttered pulses when he said good morning, they still talk about his wealth. He was rich. Yes, richer than a king. So they believe that the accumulated wealth would one day elevate them towards Cory's status and success. Yet ironically, Cory, whose life was envied by many, did not deem his life worthy of worth living. So he was envied by many, but he did not think that his life was worth winning, worth living, right? Let's move forward. Yet ironically, moreover, the workers engaged in tireless labor and forsook their sustenance, believing that accumulated, collected wealth would one day elevate them towards Cory's status and success. Yet ironically, Cory, whose life was envied by many, did not deem his life worth living. Thus, he takes his own life. What do you mean by takes his own life? Commits suicide, right? Takes his own life, and his ominous suicide contradicts the sereneness, the calmness, the calmness, once again, sereneness of the warm summer night. And the narrator purposefully refrains from lamenting over Cory's untimely death to remind the reader of the futility of an individual's accolades and admirations after death. What does that mean? One moment, take a look at this, okay? The narrator purposefully refrains. He does not lament. The narrator doesn't show sadness. Even now, usually, if a great man were to die, you see people crying over his death, right? However, here, the narrator doesn't lament over Cory's death. The narrator purposefully refrains from lamenting over Cory's untimely death to remind the reader of the futility of an individual's accolades. That means the uselessness of an individual's praise and admiration after death. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how much these people admired Cory. After he died, that is useless, right? His wealth and his humbleness, his celebrity status is useless after his death, and that is the end of our session. I'm proud that you guys were a part of this experience. Don't forget, this is the number that you have to contact if you guys want to join our classes or get tutorials, clear your doubts. And I will see you guys next time.